Hi, good evening. This is LTV on the scene in Bridgehampton, and we're at the library in the first of their discussions, and we're proud to have Peter Matheson here, who was discussing his book, Men's Lives. In your discussion tonight, it seems as though you touched upon both the evolutionary aspects of fishing as striped bass come and go, and also the idea that maybe natural selection is pushing the Bayman out. Do you think it'll cycle back?
No, I didn't say that. No,
Okay.
I didn't say that natural selection is pushing the Bayman out. I think that it's true. There are economic forces that are against them. That is perfectly true. This land has become so valuable that their children can't afford to live here anymore, and that's just a fundamental, aspect of the problem. But the town could have been, or could be more foresighted and more generous in its treatment of them, and taking into consideration some sort of low rental housing or some other situation which could ameliorate the situation, because there are so many factors militating against them. And I feel, my own feeling is that even from an economic point of view, the town is making a great mistake in not taking care of them and taking care of the situation better. Because I think that even though people don't realize it, it's like flowers in a room. If you don't appreciate the flowers, you kind of do even if you don't notice them. But if they aren't there, you notice how bare that room is, Well, I think these guys and the traps and the boats and the Sharpies and the trailers and those backyards, I think they add a kind of a quality to this landscape that belongs here. It's what attracted everybody, all this in the first place to come here.
It really broadens our horizons.
And I think if they go, we could lose a lot of tennis courts and not even feel the difference. But if we lose the Bayman and the surfmen and the dories, we're losing a whole grain of something in this town that is very valuable.
Do you think that they talk of a disease of civilization? Between government and civilization, can nature overcome them? Do you think the cycle will continue back and forth? You look at the algae bloom, they discussed many years ago that maybe a similar algae bloom came into the Peconics, and then it was gone for many years. Now 2 years in a row, it's fierce, as you described earlier.
Two years in a row on top of the striped bass legislation is very, very serious, because it wipes out the scallops and it wipes out the traps. Also probably is doing a lot of damage to young fish stocks, in the wetlands and the Spartina grass. So we don't even understand yet how serious this algae is. But coming at this time when these guys are already on the rope, it's a very, very serious problem. It'll go away, but the question is how many fishermen will still be in business by the time it goes away, and how many fishermen will still be in business when the bass come back plentifully, which they're sure to do, and especially the King and Chesapeake, as they now say they can do.
Are we spawning bass right here on the east end? It seems like we're stopping to dredge now a bit, and we're keeping those temperatures available for spawning.
Well, there's a lot of speculation that bass are spawning up in the Peconic River right here, and possibly in streams in Connecticut and New England where they were stamped out long ago and they started to come back. The bass is given any chance at all, it'll come back, but it's a very tough fish.
Durable fish.
Very durable fish.
You spoke before, it was interesting that they had an article in the paper about the $55 million spent to reintroduce the Atlantic salmon up the rivers, and it hasn't really taken hold. They've had a few salmon come back up one of the rivers, but it hasn't really taken hold. Do you see government finally getting it together and helping nature come back with the Bayman? Do you see us getting in the marketing end to take away the monopoly from the fish market?
I think after all, the town does help subsidize the clam seeding program. They could subsidize a fish smoking factory, for example, or a fish protein concentrate factory. There's no reason why they couldn't, and I think it would be very valuable for the town, and furthermore, it would probably pay for itself.
Sure.
I think it really could.
Tourists would pay to go see it too, I believe, right?
It'd be a tourist attraction for rainy days, Yeah, it's true that the striped bass would be far more profitable to work with than the salmon. The salmon is a much more delicate fish, and the bass is tougher. It can take a lot more.
When you do think critically of the men themselves, and as you say, some of them are heavy drinkers, some of them are this, and when you want to kick one in the pants, what do you want to say to them?
Very few of them are heavy drinkers.
No?
Very few. A few guys in all groups in society. I know a few heavy drinkers, don't you?
Oh, yes. Right. Yes. Can't say that, but when you want to kick them in the pants and say, why don't you do this? Do you have a particular area where you think they could help themselves, not just waiting for the fisheries and other places?
I think in the old days when Captain Ted Lester was on the beach, he had a freezer there and a fish packing situation. He was trying to get the guys to hold fish and not ship it, the market and be at the mercy of market prices every time. but he had a hell of a time. I remember he was shaking his head, getting people to cooperate. Fishermen, and one of the great things about them, the other side of that greatness is the orneriness. That kind of thing. It's very difficult to organize them. They're very independent. And I think now maybe they will organize. I think they know they have to.
They almost consider two an organization, right?
Right.
They start to
because
back down.
if they don't really organize in a serious way, they're going to go out of business.
It still remains a labor-intensive industry, and it seems as if you can have factory ships off the coast here, you could do the factory work here and sell them to boats. Do they ever think that that same sort of organizing, so that they don't just simply sell to factory ships and put all their production together? Do they think on those
Well,
scales?
the factory ships, as long as they lasted, it was a pretty good situation for those guys who were fishing in draggers offshore. For those guys, it made
That
it
was
pretty well.
draggers then.
Those draggers, yeah. There's no real mechanical apparatus for taking fish, for example, off the beach, getting them into trucks, taking them down to Montauk, getting them to small boats, and taking them out there. By the time you did that, you'd probably lose the profit. This is a terrific, really highly paid fish. So it's great for the draggers. They simply drag, or a long line, and they simply transfer it right into.
Need no transportation really. They just
go
do
right
it
up alongside and get rid of the fish.
I've met a couple of baymen, and I know one from when I was in high school who went to Johns Hopkins University, and he now lives up in Southold, and he's a bayman. And so it seems as though people will come back. They'll come from Cornell, they'll come from right down home, they'll come from Iowa, men who want to fish and be in the bays and work in that freedom.
Yeah, they will. But I'm thinking more of the guys who really have been, whose fathers were baymen and grandfathers and great-grandfathers. They're the ones, there'll always be a few guys picking around the bay, but I'd just be sorry to see the Lesters and the Havens particularly go out of business. I think it's a tradition that I find very valuable.
It is almost a privilege to be able to do what your father did and love it. To say that I'd love to do what my family has done before me. Well, Peter Matheson, we really appreciate you being here, and we hope to speak to you again and about men's lives. And by the way, I did want to ask, what does Peter's participation do in this? And as you may have heard, the book sells for $29.95. Where are the profits going from this book?
The profits are going to go to the baymen. I don't. Like I said, I got a day's pay, kind of modest salary for the years I worked on the book. And I have no share in the profits. And Adelaide de Menil, who sponsored the book, has put a hell of a lot of money into it too. She may recoup or a part of her costs. I doubt if she ever will. But theoretically, as far as I know, all the profits, any profits of the book will certainly go to the Baymen's Association, maybe some of the Marine Museum or something. But anyway, two related.
That's great. Okay. I know you read about the de Menils on the cover of the magazine section of the Times, and then you hear some of the Lesters talking about Addie de Menil on a very sort of close personal basis, and it shows that a diverse group seems to be working together, and maybe we'll get some real results.
Where Adelaide lives is, of course, right over there where Bill Lester's sturgeon shack used to be. So she's, ever since she was pretty young, she's known these people. She's very close to them. She's very friendly with them. And baymen, they don't accept you for what you are. They don't care whether you've got a lot of money or little money. They're very sure of who they are themselves, and therefore they haven't gotten the kind of, and they know that she's been a friend to them. And
no games.
No games.
No games at all.
Yeah, a great sense of humor, but they don't play games like that. So.
Well, thanks for coming. Appreciate it. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bill, do me a favor. When does this air?
I'm not sure. I'm very pleased today to bring on this morning's guest now, and we'll request that Supervisor Judith Hope would step to the fore here today, and we welcome you. And we have another Christmas outfit this morning too. I wore my red sweater.
And how come you get the taller?
No, this should be taller. Okay. I'll slouch. I have terrible posture, and here you go. Don't stick yourself with this. Just put that right in. I'd keep it about 4 inches down. That's fine. Well, welcome, Judith. Good morning.
Thank you, Bill.
How are you?
Very, very well, thank you.
And we're working on a milk box here, and I would just like to say to our viewers that this morning I had invited Supervisor Hope and Mayor Westberg of the village of East Hampton on, but Mrs. Westberg is very ill, and the mayor asked if he could decline and perhaps come on again in the future. And I want to wish the Westbergs very well, and we're sorry of the illness at this time. And again, Merry Christmas to both of you this morning. Well, this is very nice to have you here, sort of at year end, but at a joyful time of the year. And I guess one of my questions I thought would be is kind of the state of the state or the state of the town. How do you feel about 1986 for the town of East Hampton? Was it a good year for us?
Yes, Bill, I feel very satisfied about 1986. I feel that we really have brought to a successful close a number of projects of vital importance to the town that I and a great number of other people have worked on for many, many years. I think prominent among these projects, of course, is the acquisition of a large portion of Hither Woods in Montauk, using primarily state funding, which we're extremely grateful for. Hither Woods is the, as you well know, it's the sole source aquifer for all of Montauk, which means that we must preserve those lands in order to guarantee that there will be pure drinking water for the residents and the visitors to Montauk for generations to come. So shortly now, before the end of the year, the owner of 557 acres, the northern portion of Hither Woods, which includes 2 miles of magnificent shoreline overlooking Block Island and Gardner's Bay, and 350 acres of prime watershed area, those lands will be transferred by sale from the owner, Mr. John McGowan, to the Nature Conservancy. A role that the Nature Conservancy has played frequently in the past, and a very beneficial role to the various governments involved. Shortly after the beginning of the new year, those title to those properties will be transferred to the town, the county of Suffolk, and the state of New York. And the state is paying the lion's share of the cost of these properties, $5.31 million. The town is contributing $1.5 million, and the county is contributing $1.5 million. So this, as I say, is a project that a great number of civic organizations, concerned citizens of Montauk, the Group for the South Fork, a great number of dedicated individuals like Carol Morrison and Nancy Kelly, Tom Rule from the Rule family from Montauk. These people have really worked for years to see this come about. So it's a great way to end 1986. And a most auspicious way to begin 1987.
And I think it's kind of unusual to have this troika, 3 branches or 3 parts of government actually working together. I mean,
well, it's actually
it was a pretty big coup on your part.
It's unprecedented. It's unprecedented in the United States. We discover. We didn't realize it was quite that unusual, but it's never been done in this country where you have a town government, a county government, a state government purchasing a large parcel with an undivided interest in that parcel, which means there'll be no fences on the parcel, even though the state is contributing most of the money. The lands will be owned in general, undivided interest. So it's as I say, it's not been done before, and it's not easy to get 3 levels of government to agree on anything, let alone a major land acquisition. So it's been tough. It's been difficult, but satisfying because it's working out extremely well for us.
And it brings to mind the fact that one of the most dangerous things, perhaps for all of us, is the idea of shipping water from one area to another. And this may perhaps forever put to bed the idea that we will have to ship water to Montauk from Amagansett Springs and East Hampton area, which would perhaps sap, rob Peter to pay Paul, which could always be a very dangerous thing. Outside of that, I guess there's a lot of less glamorous ideas. I mean, computers and this and that in government, and just bringing government up to the efficiency of the laws that have been input. And now you've been in office 3 years now, right, as supervisor. How do you find things catching up? I mean, it always takes some time for a bureaucracy to sort of move forward. Do you feel like everything's moving on online?
Yes, slowly but surely. Let me say, as you said, government doesn't change quickly. People are very set in their ways, and it's often difficult to get much needed changes, such as conversion to a town-wide computer system, for example. There's been some resistance to that. I think you find resistance to that even in private industry until people, until people overcome their computer anxiety and discover that computers are actually a marvelous assistance in doing your job. We are moving to a town-wide computer system in 1987. We're benefiting really from a great deal of research that was done by the town of Southampton, and using the results that they came up with after 3 years of study. They are going with the Wang system, and we are piggybacking with that system initially this year, and just beginning to purchase our own hardware and get into it full scale with all the town departments early in 1987.
I notice now that my correspondence from Justice Court has those little black lines at the bottom, so that, you know, all of a sudden the print had changed and is on a computer. And I've also heard that Planning Board has gone on a computer, because one of the problems in years gone by had been the inability of the Planning Board to remember long time ago resolutions and making sure that the developer towed the line on putting in a road. I remember you wound up paving Manor Lane, which was a developer in the 60s, and the Planning Board forgot that they had put some restrictions on them, and the developer kind of disappeared.
Well, what we've had instead of a computer is we've had Grace Pospisil.
Right, that's true. And Willie Mae Yardley.
And Willie Mae Yardley, which many people believe are far superior to computers for that matter. And in fact, I'm told by my husband, whom you know is an attorney as well, Bill, that the East Hampton Building Department is one of the few building departments anywhere in Suffolk County where you can call up, and if you can get Grace on the phone, she can tell you by memory, you know, whether a lot is a buildable lot or not. And he says that's just really unheard of in other towns in East Hampton.
The beauty
but
of
we can't depend on that forever. That's for sure. It's time to get it on a computer, and we're moving in that direction. At some point, any department in town ought to be able to bring up all of that material on a computer, which I think would give us I think it will become a very valuable planning tool, as well as just to increase general efficiency.
And efficiency for then access back to an old file. You can bring it up, you don't have to go down in the basement, you can bring it up on your screen and perhaps get results for people. And I think as private citizens, people are always kind of looking forward to complaining about the slowness of their government, or, you know, I mean, sometimes it's something different, or distant, I should say. And so when it does make a mistake, you like to jump on them. So it's good to know that the town is coming into the 20th century. I guess maybe my office may have to come into the 20th. I don't know that the general
public will be terribly reassured by realizing the town's going to computers. Anyone who's ever been caught by a computer error and tried to get it corrected may have some anxiety about getting the wrong tax bill on the computer and trying to get it corrected. But we assure you that you'll not lose the small town personal touch that we have in town government.
I think one of the other things that a lot has happened in this past year has been the tremendous job the town is doing towards providing housing for lower and moderate income families. In terms of scale, in a town this size, I think it would be a huge scale if you moved it to any other town on Long Island. And I read that East Hampton is really the only town taking advantage of many of the programs available for housing.
We're the number one town on all of Long Island, including all of Nassau County. More housing initiatives, more numbers of units than any other town on the entire island, including all of Nassau County. It's really, it says two things. It says that Long Island's in very bad shape when it comes to providing affordable housing, and that the other towns are not doing anything. But it also speaks well for East Hampton that we have gone after these programs, and we have used some very innovative programs and some initiative. I mean, and in some cases, we're just inventing it as we go along, as a matter of fact, because as we well know, a great deal of the federal monies have been phased out under the Reagan administration. There really is no commitment to affordable housing in this current federal administration. It's a very conservative, laissez-faire administration, and they feel that the president himself
At least
has
domestically,
stated,
we've learned that
domestically,
conservatives,
yes, we're
right,
not so
and
sure
foreign
about what the
affairs
foreign
are
policy is.
rather
We
unique,
can't quite find out what that is yet.
Right.
But I know the president himself has said regarding the housing problem and jobs, he has said vote with your feet, which means essentially if you cannot find an affordable place to live in your hometown, go move someplace else. Well, we're not satisfied with that. We really feel we have to fight to provide affordable housing to the young families in East Hampton, because we don't want to lose our young families in East Hampton. We think that would be a very sad case, and we know it is happening, and that we know that government really must, particularly in a town like East Hampton, take the initiative to provide affordable housing, and that's what we're doing, and we're pleased and proud that we're moving along with these programs.
Really, truly, in one sense, being a town that has a big tourist industry, there's a little schizophrenia laid upon our young children here, and as they go to schools, and all of a sudden in the summer, it's kind of like the old Bill Cosby joke of walking down the alley with dollars hanging out of your pocket, and why you can't even afford to get a place to live, and all of these people are coming here. It must rankle them, I think, some of the younger people when they see that.
Yeah. Well, there's simply no question that being a resort community has results in ever escalating real estate values that force a lot of local people right out of the real estate market. And there are no programs, either federal or state, that recognize this unique situation in a resort community.
Well, let me ask you, do you have some other points that you'd like to bring out, or accomplishments on the state of the town, or I don't know, for this year, for 86?
I'd like to thank the people of the town for being helpful during 1986. We have relied heavily on a lot of volunteer advice and help in our housing programs and a number of initiatives. Our senior citizens programs, we have dozens and dozens of volunteers who spend hundreds of hours. And I really want to say to people out there, thank you for your generosity in 1986. We deeply appreciate it. It's made a lot of people's lives a lot better. Meals on Wheels, wonderful volunteer program. East Hampton is a great town when it comes to volunteers, and I just want to say very happy holiday season and deep gratitude to you. And thank you, Bill, for having me on this.
Well, we're not going to get rid of you. I guess I wanted to keep it positive. I guess one of the things that does bother me in terms of the base of the town is the plight of the commercial fishermen, the baymen, and it's kind of, I don't mean it as a negative note, because forces around us are sort of, no matter what we do, you don't know if you can control them. And, we hear of this thing, the brown tide, and scientists say, gee, I don't know what it's coming from, and sources are stated to be the Brookhaven lab, the new sewage plant in Riverhead, nature just doing something on a cycle of 80 years.
Years of agricultural activity around Peconic Bay has been suggested as one potential source for the brown tide.
Right, or even
it's really alarming when you think that one indigenous livelihood, farming, might in fact be polluting the environment and spelling the end of another wonderful indigenous historic livelihood, fishing. So we have all these paradoxes, Bill, on the East End, and it's because we are an island, it's because we are a very fragile environment, and we have to be very, very careful with it, and we're learning that in many cases too late.
Right, you generally get sins visited upon you years after the sin was committed, I think, and all of a sudden the effects of that are read into the reality, the fabric of daily life, and it's just very tough. I know that, like, one gentleman, Donnie Eames, who's a wonderful bayman who you always see speaking up, has really pulled back from being a bayman because he wasn't sure he could support his family in doing that, and I know he's helping out at Amagansett School and doing other work, and I guess it's very hard for me. I'm fortunate enough to have a skill that doesn't ride or fall with the environment in that sense, in nature. And I guess I worked one year as a farmer before I went to law school, and I realized I never really wanted to do that. I thought it was very hard work, and also the vagaries of nature were your major problem, and I decided I didn't want to be left at the whim of a rainfall or something like that. But I admire people who have the courage and fortitude to work outside and persevere in that area. I guess I know the town is seeking to help them in many ways with either transplanting or other programs that you've done. But I guess it's the one I'm least sanguine about their potential to survive these tough times.
I'm not as pessimistic as you are. I think despite the current devastating hardships in the fishing industry, I think there's some very good signs on the horizon. If we can solve the pollution problems and if we can develop alternative fisheries, I really feel that there's a strong future for the fishing industry, and particularly on the east end of Long Island. We do see, despite the people we see leaving the fishing industry, like our good friend Donnie Eames, whom you just mentioned, there are new young people coming into the fishing industry.
Sure, yeah,
they're beginning to go in, create cooperative fishing ventures in Montauk. We have a change in the American diet. People are turning away from red meat. More people are eating fish and fish products and white meat. We are learning every day it's a more healthful diet, and we have new markets opening up for this industry. So I really think that if we can get past the tough spot we're in now,
right.
I think there is in fact a very promising and very lucrative future for the fishing industry. So I'm not going to be as pessimistic as you are.
That's good. That is true, though. You pointed out some good points there. I guess unfortunately, we're running out of time, and we won't be able to go further. But I'd like to thank you again, Judith, for coming.
Thank you, Bill.
And,
I'm sorry that
Merry
Mayor
Christmas.
Westberg wasn't here, but I'd like to do it again with
nice.
him.
Sure, it would. I thought it would be very nice. And it looked very Christmassy today. And to all of you out there, thanks for watching us. We will not be on this Friday, but we'll be back next Monday to join you at home. And we want to thank our underwriters. Our new underwriter is the Alan Schneider Agency. We also have Hampton. Oh, they're all being put up on the board there for you. But thanks a lot for joining us, and we'll see you again on next Monday. Take care now. And John Halsey, welcome.
Thank you
How
very
are
much, Bill.
And I'd like to introduce John Halsey as, gosh, you're the president, I don't know what your title is, but he's the head man at the Laconic Land Trust. The group for the South Fork has been around for quite a while, and I think in its earlier days it was a controversial group, having taken one side, which generally was viewed politically as a one-sided issue. But now I must admit that the group is one of the most quoted organizations in any campaign on the East End, and actually you're growing. But think about escaping away from the East End and finding a vacation spot. And tonight's guest is Laurel Fallon. Welcome, Laurel. How are you? Of
Great.
Cook Travel. And we're going to ask Laurel perhaps some questions about what people are doing on the East End. Here, do you want to put those things up on the table here? We'll get you connected here.
Okay.
And
Where do you
here
wanna-
go. Thank you for coming. We're running out of time. Pat, it's always a pleasure.
Much appreciated, Bill.
Let me just say that it is the new year coming up, and so I thought I'd take advantage of this Christmas present that I did receive. The book is called Skid Marks, and it is Common Jokes About Lawyers. Now, some of you may think these are funny, and some of them are, as a matter of fact, but I thought this joke was particularly appropriate given the fact that we're going to start the new year. And the joke is, here it is. What would you call 2,000 lawyers chained together at the bottom of the sea? I'll give you some time to think about that. And the answer is a good beginning. And I hope your new year is a good beginning as well.
We had plenty of doctors, we had plenty of lawyers, we had people to make us think, we had people to sell us those things, didn't have enough room for those things. We built lots of self-storage, the lips of